practitioner. He is a friend, philosopher, and guide to all of us. He is my elder brother and friend. He is a man who is always available in need. It is a proud privilege for all of us to have Honorable Mr. Justice J.K. Raka to be on the session today as the chairman. We will be benefited by his huge intelligence and huge exposure and huge interaction with the trading and the industrial community. Friends, today's speaker Rajiv Shankar Dwivedi. He is a Supreme Court advocate, an advocate on record, prolific speaker. He is a master in arbitration law. He is FCI, he is MCI arbitration from the London Society. He is a very energetic person, a very prolific speaker, and is an expert on this force majeure. We will be benefited by his deliberations. It is 11 o'clock, and I would not take much time. I would directly request our today's chairman, Honorable Mr. Justice J.K. Raka, to start the proceedings, and I invite him for his opening remarks. And then after the paper writer speech, we will have a concluding remarks by the Honorable Chairman again. Sir, Honorable
Yes.
Ranga sir.
My dear sister Nikita ji, dear Pankaj, my younger brother, Rajesh Mehta ji, Vinay Jolly, Sandeep Agarwal, and so many friends in my federation, and the eminent speaker Shri Rajiv Shankar Dwivedi ji, and other fellow professional brothers. I'm happy to be with you all this morning on this interesting series of study being conducted by the Federation in furtherance of its ethics, education, and excellence, the three words given by our founding fathers. And even in this trying times when everyone is under lockdown, this series has been started for the benefit of one and all. It is just like a mini conference that I'm told that more than 400 participants are there throughout the country, and they are being benefited. And the topic chosen for today, of course, really does not impact tax professionals, but very interesting and very relevant and apt for today's time, force majeure, because at one point of time it may come to your as a query to you whenever the lockdown comes to an end and natural activity begins, because this force majeure event or invocation of this clause would be very relevant not only for contracts but in all property matters. I have gone through the PPT of the learned eminent speaker, though the topic has been new for me, but I have been able to gather rather by this elaborate presentation of Mr. Dwivedi. I'm rather have gained with the knowledge which he has imparted, and more when he comes up, when he speaks before you all. And I would certainly appreciate that good topics in the near future would be taken up for the benefit of one and all. And of course, this COVID pandemic is of creating a havoc in almost more than 200 countries, and one has to be very careful and cautious, and we have to follow the instructions of the government and the doctors and the warriors that not to move out from the home and do whatever best possible, staying within the compound of our homes in isolation, or so to say, we are quarantined in our homes for about 40 days. So friends, I welcome rather you all, my friends in profession, and maybe there are many non-members would be witnessing or watching these proceedings, welcome from the Pink City, the Utsav City, the city of joy. And let's begin with Mr. Dwivedi with his talk, and let all be enlightened with his speech or oratory skills, which have been conveyed by dear Pankaj. Of course, I would also be meeting him on the screen. And all the best to Mr. Dwivedi and all my fellow friends who have joined or would be joining. All the best, and please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And now, not taking any much time, I would now request our star speaker of the day, Mr. Rajiv Shankar Dwivedi, to please come and start his paper. Mr. Rajiv Dwivedi, your mic is open now.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, thanks a lot, Honorable Justice Ranka, for your wonderful and encouraging words. I welcome Honorable Justice Ranka, Ms. Nikita Badeka, the Honorable National President, Mr. Rajesh Mehta, the Honorable National Vice President, Mr. Vinay Jolly, the Chairman for Central Zone, Mr. Sandeep Agrawal, the Secretary, Mr. Zone, Central Zone, Mr. Pankaj Ghia, the Chief Advisor, and all the friends, all my senior friends and a colleague at bar. The topic today is with regard to the force majeure. If we see that today we are faced with a situation which is unprecedented, which has not been in capacity of any person either to stop or to mitigate or to encourage or to cause. Now, what will happen in such a situation? When a contract is entered between the parties, they basically envisage that in a situation, that in a particular given situation, both the party, they undertake to perform their part of the duty of the contract, and there are the considerations and all other parts. Now, what happens if there is a fundamental change in the situation which affects their ability to perform without their control over the situation? The very word force majeure is the etymology or the background of the word is force and major. Major is superior, force is the impact of the force. So a superior force which causes a situation which is beyond the control of everybody or anybody, and it is in that situation when a contract is rendered unworkable, what happens then? Now we are today faced with that kind of situation. So the study and the examination of this issue has become very important. I am really very helpful, very thankful to to the AIFTP who have come up with the series of the lectures, and it has really enriched everybody on all the burning and crucial issues. So now I will start with my PPT. Just a second. Is my PPT visible to everybody? Okay.
Rajiv bhai, your PPT is there and it is visible to everybody. You can go on.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
And I just want to also inform that we are already crossing 370 persons.
Oh, that's really so nice of all of them, sir.
Sir, please go.
So the term force majeure is actually taken from a French term which means superior force. Now the biggest superior force is that of the God Almighty. So whatever God Almighty does, that is something on which nobody has a control. And an event on which nobody has a control, can a person still be held liable, or can he still be forced to perform his part of contract when he is faced with a situation which is not of his doing, which he could not have avoided. That is the whole gist of the concept of the force majeure. If you will see that it refers to an event or effect that can neither be anticipated nor controlled. So the force majeure event are such, like for example, there are riots. For example, if we take the current situation of novel Corona-19, in that is a situation which has not been created by anybody, but it is there. So the force majeure event, it includes both. It includes the act of nature, it includes act of people, but it is not just limited to the natural disasters. There are sometimes the act of people like riot. Now that kind of situation where the things have become rendered unworkable. The whole concept is that the obligation under a contract are binding only as long as the matter remain the same as they were at the time of entering of the contract. Now, if there is a change in the situation, then there has to be a commiserating change in the obligation of the parties. Now, under both Indian law as well as English law, because we will see that the Indian law are primarily developed from or taken from the English law only. The force majeure, it does not simply mean anything outside the control of the party. It is a contractual language which is intended to anticipate unforeseen event and provide for what happens on their occurrence. Now, there can be a situation where the force majeure clause is provided in the agreement. There can also be a situation where force majeure clause is not provided in the agreement. So, in the latter part of my speech, I will also deal with the aspect that what has to be done where the force majeure clause has been left out from the agreement. So, how to deal with those kind of situation? For giving the force majeure clause, the intention is primarily to save the performing party from the consequence of anything over which he has no control. Now, we are to perform our part of the duty. For example, suppose somebody has purchased a car. The car was purchased for the purpose of running as a taxi and earning the money from that. And from that earning, he was to perform his obligation of paying the money back to the person from whom he has taken the money. Now, in the meanwhile, the lockdown has come. The lockdown has rendered him incapable of performing his duty. So it is in these kind of situation that if there is a force majeure clause provided in the agreement, then how to deal with it, and if that is not provided, at the same time, how to deal with that also. Now, if there is the force majeure clause is provided in the agreement, then the agreement also provides that what are those instances which can be considered as a force majeure. It can give a list of the specific instances. Now, what are the tests for seeking to rely on a force majeure clause? Now, the event which gives rise to the parties' inability to perform under the contract is an event which is taken as a force majeure event. Now, the first important thing is that the circumstances it must be beyond the control of the party. Therefore, it cannot include a situation like, for example, there is a insufficiency of fund or financial incapability. Now, the financial incapability is a situation which is not out, it may be out of his control, but it is not a situation which does not have his contribution towards it. There is no situation that where he could not have taken any reasonable step to avoid or to mitigate that kind of situation. Similarly, if there is some untoward event like war has happened, now if the war starts after the contract has taken place, then that war will be taken as a force majeure event. But if the agreement has been done after the force majeure event, otherwise like a war or like a pandemic, now if he knows that this has happened or this is likely to happen in the near future, then in that circumstances, that very event, it will not work as a force majeure event. So here the main thing is that there's something which is unforeseen. Now, merely unforeseen again is not in itself is complete yardstick. Like for example, the riot. In a situation in an area where we know that the riot can happen, how can we really say that the riot situation was an unforeseen situation? In that, there the yardstick is that whether that situation was under control of the person or not. Now, the riot is certainly something which a person, a party to the contract, they cannot claim that we are in a position to control the riot. Therefore, the riot-like situation can be taken as a force majeure situation. Similarly, the pandemic which has spread at the moment. Now, the contract which will be entered henceforth after the pandemic has taken place, for those contracts, the pandemic will not be a force majeure clause. But for the work which has already been going on, now the first criteria for to have a force majeure contract is that there should be a valid contract and a valid agreement. Now, if the agreement itself is not valid, or say the agreement is for a purpose of for some illegal a purpose where the agreement itself is void, we cannot say that we cannot invoke the force majeure clause in those kind of situations. The second important aspect is that the contract or the agreement is yet to be concluded. Now here it is very important. Suppose there is an agreement which has already been concluded before the force majeure event has actually taken place. Can this defense be taken in that situation? My answer is no. If the agreement has already concluded, the work has already been done, and some event happens thereafter, so a party to a contract cannot escape his liability merely by citing that there was a force majeure event post conclusion of the agreement. Therefore, the agreement has to be in force. It is yet to be concluded. It is still being carried out. The fourth is the unforeseen event we have covered. Then there is a normal duty of the party to mitigate the effect of the force majeure event. Now, this duty to mitigate is again dependent upon his ability to mitigate it. If he is not in a position to mitigate the effect of the force majeure, he cannot be held liable for that. It is enough that he has actually acted upon it. It is enough that he has done his best to mitigate that effect of the force majeure. This impossibility does not only mean a physical impossibility or the literal impossibility, but there may also be a situation, there may also be a case where the very foundation of the contract has been shaken. For example, if we take a contract to collect the toll tax or a toll contract, there is a total lockdown. In the case of the lockdown, the entire traffic movement has stopped. Now a toll concessionaire, his work is to be there on the toll and collect the toll from the vehicle passing through that. Now, this is a situation where the person of the toll contractor is standing on the toll is there. So there is no physical impossibility, though there is no literal impossibility. But by the direction of the government, the movement of the vehicle have been stopped. So there is no vehicle which is coming from which he can collect the toll. So here the very foundation of the contract has been upset. So in that situation, that is a force majeure situation. Similarly, where the government itself has directed the party that now, like NHAI has issued a direction that nobody will collect toll. So where everything remaining same, some vehicles are also moving, but he has been prohibited from collecting the toll. So he is unable to perform his part of the duty. So all these events, they can rightly be taken to be a force majeure event. So the force majeure event leading to non-performance, it need not necessarily conclude in termination of the contract. Now the other part is, if the contract provides for a force majeure event, it also provides in certain contract, it does provide, in certain contract it does not provide. So it also provides that what are the consequences of those force majeure event. The consequences can be threefold. One is termination of the contract. The second is suspension of the contract or the suspension of the obligation of the particular party in the contract. And the third is that where during the period where the party can perform, he will be performing the contract till that period without any consequence, and for the remaining period he will be exempted from the obligation of performing the contract on his part. If we will see that in the number of the construction agreements, all the multi-story buildings and other construction agreement, if you will recall that in a couple of years ago, the National Green Tribunal suddenly come up and they passed an order that all the construction sites within 15 kilometers from Yamuna ecosystem zone or Yamuna bird sanctuary, they were prohibited from extracting the groundwater. And they were also, in certain cases, there were also some prohibition for some period for construction. Every year we will see, especially in the National Capital Region of Delhi, that during Diwali time, there is a direction for stopping all the construction works. Now, these are the direction, these are certain situation which can be taken to be a force majeure event. But again, then it is important to see what is the provision of force majeure which has been given in the agreement. For example, in the first year during the Diwali period, due to the pollution, if there was a stoppage of the work, that can be taken to be a force majeure clause. But once the party know that yes, during Diwali period, there is a possibility of the stopping of the work. So it may not be the force majeure event for the subsequent period or for the contract which has been entered into in the subsequent period. So termination of the contract due to force majeure event, if the agreement so provide, it can be resorted to. But if the agreement has given a leeway that without terminating the contract also it can be worked out, then that should always be the intention of the party to work out the contract, even after just adjusting their respective liabilities and their other aspect. So the party which seeks to rely on the clause may also need to show that it was not aware at the time of the entering the contract that the circumstances giving rise to the event of force majeure was likely to occur. So as I said, that it should be a situation which must not be known to him or which he cannot anticipate. For example, now that the COVID-19 pandemic has started, as I said earlier, that an agreement which was entered before this pandemic all those agreement, it was a force majeure event. But if an agreement that is entered into after this, for those agreement, the parties are expected to take into consideration the hardship or the prohibitions which have been applied. So for the subsequent contracts, this cannot be a force majeure event. The most landmark judgment on this aspect is the Alopi Prasad. Now, this was a judgment in which there was a contract of the supply of the ghee, and during that period, the World War II had broken out, and there was a change in the agreement during the subsistence of the war. And at that time, after the war had started, so the court had held that it will not, that and the Alopi Prasad, he had demanded for the higher amount for the ghee that he had supplied on the ground that the World War II had taken place, and it was a force majeure event. So it was denied by the court, saying that almost 3 years after the World War II was broke out, the original contract was revised. Therefore, the party, they were knowing about the event, and it cannot be said to be a event which was unforeseen by them. Therefore, it was not allowed. Now, what is the effect of force majeure on an agreement? The first and foremost effect of the force majeure on the agreement is that it relieves the party or the obligated party from its obligation under the contract. It may free both the parties as well. That is why I said that it will relieve the obligating party from their obligation in the contract, because of the situation or circumstances which is beyond their control. The force majeure clause may vary. They can be specific, like they can provide a list of incidences which will be taken to be a force majeure event. In that kind of situation where there is an exhaustive list is given, then those list has to be adhered to, or it can give a general list referring to simply the event outside the reasonable control of a party, or it can be a combination of both. But the language, it is ultimately the language of the force majeure clause which will actually determine the remedies available to the party. Some contract may provide for immediate termination. This part we have already dealt earlier. So now it will go to the next slide. But the most contract today, they contain the detailed clauses wherein event and circumstances factors that may be considered as a force majeure clause are expressly set out. So it is always advisable at the time of drafting of the contract that the force majeure clause are entered into it as exhaustively as possible. The remedies may also be prescribed therein, that what are the and the most important, the financial remedies should also be set out there very clearly and unambiguously. So if the contract has been suitably drafted by including all these aspects, in those cases only the occurrence of event falling within the detailed, specific or broad categorization may absolve a party. But in a cases where it has not been so drafted, there it leads to litigation, and where both the party, they are supposed to lead evidence and thereafter prove their claim and all. In an alternative, the agreement, it can specifically set out the event, the occurrence of which shall not be considered as a force majeure event. The other aspect of doing it, that to spell out that what are the event which will not be force majeure event. Suppose the parties are well aware that in this area or in these times such kind of thing can happen, and they also feel and they also take in their wisdom commercial call that these are the event which we can tackle on our own, and we do not want to treat these events as a force majeure event. So they can do that in their agreement. They will just spell out those events, and they will say that these events will not be taken as a force majeure event. Apart from those, whatever are those incidences which are beyond their capacity, they will be taken as a force majeure event. Now, why these aspects are important? They are important because in several cases, rather in most of the cases, a party, they may try to wriggle out of their obligation taking the excuse of the force majeure clause. It is in those situations where the force majeure is not as apparent as is the pandemic which is going on at the moment, that has to be proved. That has to be proved by leading evidence. So what are the things which has to be proved? The first and foremost is that the party has suffered a loss. The party has been rendered incapable of performing their part of duty because of that force majeure event. Therefore, there can be situation in a contract where party expressly assume the risk of impossibility. They say that, okay, let there be a riot. I take that riot under my zone of risk, and I do not want to spell that riot as a force majeure event. In that situation, they cannot avoid the performance of their obligation on the ground of impossibility. So if a contract provides that an obligation is unconditional or unaffected by any impossibility, then it is not open for a party to bring a claim under the defense of the force majeure. However, even in those cases, the occurrence of the event other than those which are specifically excluded from the purview of the force majeure may be derived from an interpretation of the governing law and shall vary from the case to case. So that is why it is most important that what is the language of the contract, how the contract has been drafted, how the intention of the party have been put into the contract and have been spelled therein. In certain circumstances, even if the contract does not provide for the force majeure clause, it can be culled out from the intention of the party and based upon the circumstances in the case. So there is a situation where suppose there is the force majeure clause is not provided in the contract. Now here, just pausing for a moment, it is very important to point out that in the entire all the law or all other part, force majeure per se has not been provided under any act, be it the Contract Act or be it any other act. The concept of force majeure has not been provided in any law. However, it is culled from the several part of the Contract Act. Like there is a provision which says that if the contract has been rendered impossible, it becomes void. So in those kind of situation, this whole concept of the force majeure is culled out of there. Now coming back to it, that what happens if the force majeure clause is not provided in the agreement? In that situation, the doctrine of frustration is taken into play. The doctrine of frustration is provided under Section 56 of the Indian Contract Act. So in the situation and others where force majeure may or may not apply, the non-performing party might also consider relying on the doctrine of frustration. So for the purpose of doctrine of frustration, it is not necessary that it has to be a force majeure condition only. It can be a condition other than the force majeure also. So there also the doctrine of frustration can be applied. But certainly in an agreement where the force majeure clause is not given, there the party can take recourse to the doctrine of frustration. But to take shelter of section 56, it must be ensured that the parties have once again entered into a proper and valid contract. The party to a contract usually have an intention to fulfill. So once again, it is the same that the parties, they have the intention to fulfill, but they feel and they claim that they have not been able to complete their part of contract because the circumstances were such which has rendered it impossible for them to perform their part of the contract. The doctrine of frustration as well as the force majeure event, they are an exception to the rule that the party of the contract, they are expected to fulfill their part of the contract. And they are an exception which exonerate them from the liability of non-performance of their part of contract. That is why it is very important that these exemptions has to be applied very carefully, because they do away with a reasonable expectation of the party to the contract, that once the contract has been lawfully entered, the other party, they will honor it. So for invoking the protection of the doctrine of frustration, the necessary condition are once again the same, that there must exist a valid and subsisting contract. So the contract should not only be valid, it should still be subsisting, and it has not concluded. The some part of the contract is yet to be performed. So in a already formed contract or in an already concluded contract, a subsequent event that cannot be taken as a ground for its frustration. The contract, after it is entered, it becomes impossible to perform. Such impossibility to perform can be by way of a death, incapacity of a party, it can be change of law, it can be change of circumstances which cannot be anticipated or controlled. So frustration of contract cannot result out of the willful intention of the party. Now this is very important part, especially in the frustration on contract. It cannot be induced by a party. The situation which has arisen or for which the party is claiming the frustration, that situation must not be induced by the party who is claiming the exemption on the basis of the doctrine of the frustration. Now, Satyabrat Ghosh is the landmark judgment, and in the facts of this case, it was held by the party that it cannot be said that the requisition order validly affected the contract or made its performance impossible. So, in this case, all the aspects which have to be applied for upholding the doctrine of frustration, they were dealt with, and even till today, the principle laid down by this judgment are applied by all the judgments. Now, this Nehati Jute Mill case, it deals with a particular aspect of a contract, that what happens that when a contract has been frustrated by the event of impossibility, the arbitration clause in these contracts, even though the contract has become void, the arbitration clause will survive. And all the disputes arising out of these void contracts, they will be settled as per the arbitration agreement provided in these void agreement. Now, the Energy Watchdog versus CERC, this was one of the most recent judgment. The judgment rendered by Justice Rohinton Nariman. It's one of the very fine judgment on this aspect, and I'll request and suggest everybody to go through this judgment, because it has compiled all the legal development on this aspect, and very beautifully it has been analyzed. So it says that if there is a express or implied force majeure clause in a contract, it will apply and it will supersede over the principle under section 56. Section 56 is much more rigorous in its application than the provision of force majeure. The yardstick for proving Section 56 for invoking and applying Section 56 are much more rigorous than the yardstick of proving and applying the force majeure clause. So this judgment has very categorically held that if in an agreement the force majeure clause is expressly provided, or it can be implied, or it can be culled from the wording of the agreement, then the force majeure clause will prevail. If it is not there, it is only in that case that the party may resort to, or the party may take the defense of impossibility or the possibility of Section 56. So the court further says that the application of doctrine of frustration must always be within a very narrow limit. So as I said before, that the Section 56 is much tough to prove, much more difficult to prove than the force majeure event. A rise in cost or expense will not frustrate a contract. Now, what had happened in this case, there was a power purchase agreement, and that power purchase agreement was entered based upon a price of coal in some Indonesia or some other forest country. So what had happened that due to the change in the condition in that country, the rise of coal, it rose very sharply. And on the basis of that, they said that this is kind of a force majeure event, and it has the impact of frustrating the contract. This contention was allowed by APTEL, but when the matter was taken to the Supreme Court set aside the judgment, and it held that merely the rise in the price of the coal, it cannot be taken to be a force majeure event. Rise in the price of the input of a product are a commercial aspect of any agreement, and they have to be foreseen by the party entering into contract, and any event which can be foreseen, that cannot constitute a force majeure event. Now, there is another very important aspect, that if merely because there is a force majeure event, does that automatically apply to a contract or not? The answer here is no. The force majeure event on its own does not automatically apply on a particular contract. The force majeure event should affect the performance, should affect an obligation of the party to the contract. It should affect the ability to perform his obligation in the contract. So merely by saying that this pandemic has broken out, that this COVID-19 has broken out, it is not sufficient. It has to be pleaded and proved that how this pandemic has affected the performance of the obligation of a party. Similarly, if there is a right-like situation, if there is a war-like situation, in those situations also, how it has affected that part is very important. So the performance is not merely suspended just because a force majeure situation has arisen, unless it significantly affects the performance capability of the party. A party invoking a force majeure clause should therefore prove direct nexus between the force majeure event and impossibility to perform the contractual obligation. So there has to be a direct nexus between the two. Merely, like for example, if we say that, like the example that I had given, that there is a tall contractor, and he says that due to the lockdown, my earning has gone down. So he has to plead that due to the lockdown, the traffical movement has stopped, and he had to also demonstrate that how much money he has collected. Similarly, the person who is flying a taxi, who is running a taxi, he has to show that during that period, my taxi was completely shut down. The taxi was not even used for essential services. Therefore, it was not running. So all these aspects has to be pleaded and proved that due to the force majeure event, they had actually impacted and it had made the performance of his part of obligation impossible. So on its own, it cannot be done. Similarly, in almost all the contracts, or in most of the contract, they provide that what are the procedure which are prescribed after the force majeure event has actually taken place. So the first and foremost is that the moment the force majeure event has taken place, the same must be communicated to the other side, that the force majeure event has taken place and accordingly the step has to be taken. At the same time, when the force majeure event has stopped, that also has to be immediately communicated to the other side that now the force majeure event has stopped. So from here onwards, I'll be able to perform my part of the obligation and the work can start from there. So for that period for which the force majeure event was there in the place, the obligations can be worked out or exempted or whatever. Another aspect which is used by several parties, that can a force majeure event be used after the period has gone by? The answer is no. Once the period has stopped, once the work has been completed and some force majeure event happened thereafter, that defense cannot be taken place. Or at the same time, suppose the force majeure event has happened and the person is claiming the force majeure much belated, then in that situation he has to explain as to why there was so much of the delay and why that force majeure event has happened so much belatedly. Now, another very crucial aspect, which is a very burning topic today, that what is the impact of force majeure event on a lease of a commercial property? Now, as we see that the most of the professionals or the companies or the BPO and all, they are running from the lease premises. So what is the impact? What is the impact of these on the force majeure event? So the first part is, if there is an agreement, or if there is a clause in the agreement which has provided that in case of a force majeure event, the lessee is exempted from paying the rent, then in those situations, the relation between the party or the obligation will be guided by the force majeure. Like in several lease agreements, there is a provision that in case of a force majeure event where the lessee is unable to use the lease premise, so in that situation, till the period it is done, he is not he's exempted from paying the rent. In those situations, that clause will be applicable. Secondly, or if the agreement has provided, because in these kind of clauses, the agreement also provide that suppose if the force majeure event that extends to 90 days or 120 days, the lease would be terminated. So where the lease agreement provide for the force majeure clause, that will be guided by so. But in the lease agreement where the force majeure clause is not provided, because in most of the lease agreement, the force majeure clause has not been given. There has been several view of the several courts, but the final word is that merely because the party or the person has not been in a position to use the lease premises, merely on that ground, the lease, he cannot be exempted from, or he cannot be excused from performing his part of the obligation, and the lease rent will have to be paid. I think if you will go through the PPT, you will come across all the details and all the judgment which are uh, provided therein. Now, here there is another aspect. The section 56 or the doctrine of impossibility will not be applicable, because the lease deeds will be guided by section 108 of the Transfer of Property Act, which is the specific act for these kind of agreement. And there is a judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court also, Raja Dhruv Dev Chand, where it says that where the property lease is not destroyed or substantially and permanently unfit, the lessee cannot avoid the lease because he does not or is unable to use the land for the purposes for which it is let to him. So this is the view which is standing even today. There are the judgments of several high courts also. I will share this PPT with you. In fact, the PPT which was shared a few days earlier, I have made several changes in this PPT. So I will share this PPT also, and that can be taken off. So for the lease agreement, the settled position is that merely because a person is not able to or is not in a position to access the lease premise, it does not mean that he is exempted, and this force majeure clause will not be applicable on him. Now, after this pandemic has broken out, the number of steps have been taken by the government, which are detailed in several slides hereinafter. I'll just read out briefly that the National Disaster Management Authority of India has declared, and they have held the pandemic to be a force majeure event. The Ministry of Finance, with its letter dated 19th of February 2020, they have also declared it to be a force majeure event. So this COVID-19 is a force majeure event. There is no doubt about that. There are repeated notifications of the government in this regard, but that in itself is not sufficient to hold that this is a force majeure event and it will automatically apply to me. Here it is necessary that how it has impacted me or how it has impacted the party, that has to be demonstrated, and how it has made the party impossible to perform his part of the obligation, that also has to be demonstrated. So now what has happened, these are some key measures which are adopted within the Indian legal system. Now all the courts all across the country, they have closed, and only the extremely urgent matters they are taken up, and that also through video conferencing. All the matters and the case listed during the lockdown, they have been adjourned and the next date are given. All the interim order, now this is very important, all the interim order, they have all been extended till beyond the period when the lockdown would be closed. Now that you know that it has been extended till 3rd of May, and we only hope and pray that it does not get extended even further. Now, one order was passed by the Honorable Supreme Court under Article 142. Under Article 142 is the suo motu power of the court, where it can pass any order for the purpose of justice. So one order has been passed that all the limitations which was falling within this period, they have been extended. So from 15th March, all the limitation which was to end, all those limitations have been extended till further order. The NCLAT, they have also passed an order, and they have said that all the period of limitation provided in the bankruptcy code, the mandatory timeline, they have all been extended. So whatever period which has been lapsed during the lockdown, so that period will not be calculated in counting the limitation period. Now, one very important thing which has happened, that the minimum threshold to determine the default under insolvency and bankruptcy, it has been raised from 1 lakh to rupees 1 crore. This is very important because since due to the lockdown there are several default. So in order to meet those situations, this order has been passed. Now there has been a relaxation in the mandatory requirement. So if you will see that from slide 26, 27 and further 5-6 slides, I have tried to compile as exhaustively as possible all the extension which has been provided by the government for all the filing timelines. They have I have tried to compile at one place so that it can be helpful for everybody. This will go on till slide number 31, 30. Slide number 31, there are all the extensions, so you all can go through it. Like in this, there is extension to avail the benefit under Sabka Vishwas legal dispute regulation. There was announcement by the Honorable Finance Minister also in regard to this, that all the filing compliances, they have been extended. Now I have also prepared certain charts that how we have to proceed in an agreement. So suppose if there is a force majeure clause, so there can be two situations. Yes, that in an agreement there is a force majeure clause. What has to be done thereafter? Expressly stated the epidemic, pandemic, then the force majeure clause can be invoked. A second situation is it has listed out a specific force majeure event, then there to assess if the language of clause and situation allows it or not. Then the third situation is broad interpretation of a force majeure. Sir, I'm sure that my time is running out. I can see the
word, last 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, we are the kind of people who write fastest at the end of the exam, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, it also gives the situation where the force majeure clause has not been provided in the agreement that has been given. Now, how to invoke the force majeure clause? The options are termination, suspension, alteration, and negotiation, and the force majeure clause not applicable. So all that situation I have tried to compile in one place so that it can be helpful. The process of invoking force majeure clause. So legally assesses if the force majeure clause has directly resulted in the breach of contract, notify the other party. So as I told earlier, that as soon as the force majeure clause it happens, the first duty of the party is to immediately inform other party that due to this force majeure clause, it has become impossible for me to perform my part of the obligation. And that sets into motion the entire process which has to be followed thereafter. And these are some more judgments. That the recent judgment, as it was said that on 8th of April 2020, the Bombay High Court has come up with this judgment where it has refused to grant force majeure exemption to a set of the steel importers who had sought to restrain the encashment of their letter of credit, holding that the letter of credit was independent to the situation and it is not directly affected by it. And the further detail of the judgments are given. And that's all. Thank you very much. And thank you for hearing me patiently. Thank you. Sir.
I think you have to exit the screen.
Okay, sir. So from where do I exit, sir?
Just a minute. I would stop share screening. Exit full screen.
Sorry, sir. I'm technically handicapped on that part.
What I would do is I would request you to just exit from the control mode. Exit from the control mode.
Optimize here, show the name of the disable. Resume share. I think I have exited.
No, you are still.
Stop share. Stop share. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Friends, we had a wonderful deliberation by none other than our friend, a good advocate, a great presentation on a topic which we had, I think we had not listened. It is not an income tax topic. It is not a GST topic. It is not something which we are accustomed to hearing daily. But it is a topic which is very useful for all of us, because all contracts, all lease agreements, everywhere, the query would come to you and you have a complete working before you. Friends, the PPT of Mr. Rajiv Dwivedi has already been shared in all the groups. It has been shared in the chat mode, and he will be answering the questions. Some persons have raised hands for their queries. But before I give the opportunity, let me say, we are grateful to Mr. Rajiv Dwivedi to get this topic, a new topic, a very new topic. I think this is for the first time. We all must be listening to a force majeure topic. Friends, to remind you, again tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, it is like a TV show now. And every day at 11 o'clock, we are there. And every day we come up with a new speaker, with a new subject, and a new knowledge series. So friends, tomorrow we have Mr. VP Gupta, advocate from Delhi, a senior person, a knowledgeable person, and he would be talking on approach towards additions after demonetization in the light of section 68, 69, 69C and D. So friends, do join us tomorrow again at 11 o'clock. And now, before I would ask Mr. Rajiv Dwivedi, just a minute, sir. Before I would ask Mr. Rajiv Dwivedi to answer all the queries, I would request all the participants to raise their hands. Raise their hands not like this, but through the computer mode, and go to the computer mode. And before that, I would request our chairman, Honorable Mr. Justice J.K. Raka, to say a few words. I would be opening the mic for for our chairman, sir. And sir, you are live now. Please, your comment, sir.
I'm happy and delighted to hear Mr. Dwivedi. And in the beginning itself, I stated that the professionals, tax professionals rather, they should endeavor to look into different issues which are affecting the tax professional as such or the client as such. Because these issues, though not relevant for a tax professional, but are of vital importance, and you gain the knowledge when you hear such elaborate talks from eminent lawyers like Mr. Dwivedi and others, that everything is available to you in a lucid manner. He has explained, narrated to you that in what circumstances these force measure can be implemented or invoked. And I am happy that he has come up to a very great expectation of all, and had not only covered oldest judgments of 1954, but also the judgment of just passed this month itself of Bombay High Court. Of course, I have I don't have a copy of the judgment of the Bombay High Court, but the way Mr. Dwivedi has mentioned, I have some doubt about it, maybe because the full judgment is not there. Because on the one hand, Bombay High Court says, and Mr. Dwivedi may enlighten me also, that steel is considered to be an essential service or a commodity. And on the contrary, the Bombay High Court denies ad interim stay to the importers, which may be detrimental to the interest of the importers at this crucial time of COVID-19. And certainly it's a force measure. Maybe I don't know what made Bombay High Court to deny ad interim stay. Nevertheless, the judgment is there, but certainly one need to get enlightened on the way the judgment has been pronounced, particularly when the judgment of 2017 of Honorable Justice Rohinton Nariman has been relied upon by the petitioners in that case. Anyway, certain things to be taken care of. Notice is a must. Without notice, one cannot get any benefit out of it. And there are several judgments of the Bombay, Delhi, MP High Court that in the light, if there is no notice to the other side, one particularly cannot get benefit out of the force majeure clause, despite a recital being in the contract or a lease deed. Insofar as commercial lease is concerned, I may have a slight reservation because the property as such has not been hampered. It's a lockdown, of course. No one can move out, but property has not been destroyed or demolished, and it has not been unworkable as such. There may be two views, but nevertheless, in the present time, when economy is in a bad shape, certainly as a lessor or a landlord, taking into consideration the future needs or aspects, waivers should be granted, and not that straight away a litigation is filed in the courts to claim the rent for the period of this 1 month or 2 months, which may come forward in the times to come, because these are the trying times. And as has been noticed, there are statements of economists world over that everywhere there would be a slowdown. So whatever best one is getting out of it, maybe for a waiver of 1 or 2 months, one should be satisfied that yes, one should get waived on the request of the lessee, and not unnecessarily spoil the relationship between a lessor and a lessee, because of course the lessor is also sufferer, but the lessee is more sufferer because he has to incur not only the other expenses which are fixed on it. So my friends, I must appreciate and I must again congratulate Mr. Pankaj, Sandeep, Vinay, Madam, my sister Nikita ji for starting these series. And as every day we watch Ramayana or Mahabharata in the DD, it is a nice gesture on the part of Federation that a fixed timing has been given when all can join and then put and rather gain out of it. So congratulations to Mr. Dwivedi, and hopefully we'll meet somewhere in some conference where we'll be hearing you from the podium. And of course it is as good as a podium today. And maybe a caution to Nikita ji that in the times to come, or Mr. Pankaj, that in future conferences one need not accept that we had a gathering of 1,000 people or 400 or 700 people. A gathering in this webinar is sufficient that one should be happy in this way. So friends, nice to be enlightened on a very important topic for the benefit of one and all. And once again, stay safe. Prevention is the best cure. Be at home and function whatever in the best manner from your home, and follow the guidelines and in letter and spirit of the government, the doctors, and your well-wishers. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now, Rajiv ji, I would be taking you directly to the queries as raised. The first query, before that, I would recognize the presence of our Secretary General, Mr. Sameer Jani, our Deputy President, Mr. M. Srinivas Rao, and yes, our National President, Ms. Nikita Badeka is already there. And before taking a query, I would ask Nikita ji to give a very short comment. And I am unmuting her mic. You can unmute your mic. Very short comment from her.
I may also have some different view if on the questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So-
Your
so
mic is
I-
already always open.
Okay, fine. Because,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
right.
Giyaji, we have enriched ourselves. Let's go ahead with the queries. People are more interested in queries. I have only one request for everybody. Please donate to PM Cares Fund through AIFTP link, which is available on our website. And I have given that link, AIFTP website address on the chat also. It is www.aiftponline.org. Please, everybody donate generously. Thank you.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Donate generously. That would be better. The first query from Rajesh Manak.
Yes,
Rajesh
sir.
from Alwar, and
Sir, good morning.
a young, a great chartered accountant, a family of advocates, chartered accountant. Rajesh bhai, go on. Be crisp
Thank
with
you.
the query, directly on the query, and short answers, Rajiv bhai. We have lot of
Sir.
queries.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, my query is, in case of rent agreement with NBFC, the tenant gave termination notice, and he did not want to pay the rent of notice period also due to this COVID. While the other offices are running in the same building, other NBFC and other banks are running in the same building. So what will be the position, sir? Even we are ready to waive rent of this lockdown period, but he did not want to pay any single money. What will be the position, sir?
You are the landlord or you are the tenant, sir?
Sir,
You are the landlord or you are the tenant, sir?
landlord, sir, landlord.
Okay. Sir, see, the tenant here has to pay the rent.
Okay, sir.
The only way his rent paying obligation can be waived if you both mutually agree to it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
The moderation of the clause is only way out. Otherwise, the tenant is duty bound to pay the rent, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I would now be taking to Mr. Ankit Totuka.
Sir, my query is that if a company has supplied some components to company B, right, and that B company in return was to manufacture certain thing which will further be used to sell its products, right? But due to this pandemic, say in case of automobile, the components are given by A to company B for manufacturing of motor vehicles. The company B is unable to sell or manufacture motor vehicles due to this pandemic. And in return, because of this pandemic, due to financial difficulties, it could not make the payment to A for the components purchased. And there is a clause in the agreement that in case of force majeure, the agreement may be terminated with the consent of the parties. Then in such case, can the company B be allowed to return back the components to company A, or the company B is duty bound to make the payment? Or can they terminate the contract saying that I am unable to fulfill the obligation because I am unable to use it for further manufacture of the products?
Sir, here the situation is that he has not been able to sell. As far as the agreement between you two is concerned, it is the agreement of supply and the payment. You have supply your part, he has to make the payment. For the further part, because his ability to sell or not to sell, I don't think that is a part of your agreement, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. M. Srinivas Rao, our Deputy President.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. So kind of you. While in the moment of this COVID, generally the tenant and owner is about to receive the owner for the rent, and the tenant is to avoid that. Are there any moratorium is already decided by the government of India for 3 months? That should be applicable for this area.
Sir, I think that order which has been passed is only with regard to National Capital Region of Delhi. And that also is not an order, that also is just a suggestion.
But not for India.
Not for all over India. And that also is a suggestion that says that the landlord should not ask for the rent for 3 months. And that is only not ask for 3 months. It does not say that the waive the rent for 3 months. It merely says that the landlord of the poor tenant and the student, they should not ask for the rent. It means that all these rent that they can be taken after 3 months. It does not say that the rent for these 3 periods are waived.
Okay, Mr. Devendra Parikh.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We are a registered trust and having a ownership of the land and building with air condition hall and loan. We have an agreement for a 1 year lease agreement with the contractor of the Faraz Khana. So in that circumstances, this COVID problem, that Faraz Khana people have to give the rent regularly to us or not?
Sir, legally they have to pay the rent,
Right.
but in the given circumstances, it is always advisable to work out some delay in their payment. So it all has to be mutually agreed.
Nitin Shah. Mr. Nitin Shah.
Sir, the recent order passed by the Supreme Court in under Article 142, is it applicable to the state enactments where the
Everybody,
assessment?
all over India,
Yes.
all over India.
So,
If you say, I'll share that order also.
all
I'll
laws.
share that order that is applicable on everybody, all over the country.
All
Even
laws.
adjudication level, not appeal, but even adjudication level.
Every level, sir, everything.
All
That is an all-encompassing order. No limitation till the next order. Be
Sir,
absolutely clear on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Even for the purpose of section 138 also, all the limitations are extended, sir.
15th March onwards.
Yes, sir. 15th March onwards, sir.
Yes, yes. Till
Thank you,
further
sir.
order, you're right.
Mr. Virender. Mr. Virender, are you there?
Yeah, sir, I am here.
Yeah, go on.
Sir, whether parties can take plea of force measure not to pay interest on the term loan taken from NBFC or bank?
Sir, if we will see the announcement made by the Honorable Finance Minister, there the moratorium was posed. The moratorium was put only on the installment. Even there is no moratorium on the interest. Therefore, I doubt if the force majeure thing can be invoked for the purpose of postponement of paying the rent. I mean, paying the interest.
Interest.
Does it make any difference if loan is taken from any third party, not from bank or NBFC?
Please stop
Sir, the
sharing,
direction.
please. I think somebody has shared the screen.
Well, no, that's not me, sir.
Okay, I would do it. Yes. Okay,
Yes, sir.
no cross questions, please, Virenji. Mr. Smith Saurabh Patna. Smith Saurabh, you have to unmute your mic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Huh.
My question, simple question is, sir, how we may enter the force majeure clause in any contractual agreements? May we simply write down force majeure as an additional point? If possible, give some examples, as
Sir.
the event are not exhaustive, not inclusive one.
Sir, thank you very much for asking this question. I was really thinking whether this aspect I have fully covered in my speech or not, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, time well spent on drafting the agreement save 10 dispute in future.
Yeah.
So at the time of the drafting of the agreement, we have to envisage all possible situations which can come into mind, especially the negative situation. And that is the problem which happened, that when we are in drafting the agreement, both the parties are on goody and pally thing. We can't even imagine what wrong can happen with us. And when things start going wrong, only wrong thing happen. And then we find that we are not well equipped because there is no such provision in the agreement. Therefore, the agreement has to be always be prepared, thinking or imagining as if all hell has broke loose between the parties.
Yes.
So, for the force majeure event, we have to discuss specifically each situation, that whether, suppose a situation of riot, both parties have to discuss with each other.
Rajiv
whether
bhai,
we
in
want
brief,
to-
please.
Sir,
We have lot of queries.
Okay, sir. Sorry, sir. You can reach out to me separately. We will discuss this out because there is really a point which is quite close to my heart.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Mr. Mitesh Modi. Mr. Mitesh Modi.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Pankaj ji.
Thank you, Mitesh bhai. Welcome.
Thank you. Dwivedi, my question is about the RBI announcement on the moratorium period. You just said that it is not possible to take shelter of the force majeure situation for the interest charge, compounding interest charge for these 3 months. But my further query is whether we can take shelter of the law of frustration, because in India there is a compulsory lockdown, while in the other abroad states there is a voluntary lockdown. When the business people are not in a position to carry out the business activities, and the fund borrowed from the bankers they cannot use, and on the other hand the interest has been charged on compounding rate, whether we can take shelter of this law of frustration, my queries.
Very good question. Amitesh ji, if you will see that day before yesterday, there was another announcement by RBI in which they have said that for this period, no company would be declared to be NPA. At the same time, this precise issue is also pending before Honorable Supreme Court. One PIL is filed by Amit Saini, where this issue that why there should be moratorium on the interest also. Having said that, whatever you are saying is absolutely correct, and the next round of litigation is going to be on this aspect only, sir. And there's going to be a good round of litigation on this, because whatever you are said is absolutely correct.
Thank you, Rajiv bhai. Hari and Company, Bellary.
Sir, when lessee liable to pay lease rent, if there is no major force major clause, when employer liable to pay salary to the employee, because there
absolutely
is no
Prime Minister has been repeating again and again, pay full salary to all your employees.
If employer deduct the salary by paying 50%, or he does not make,
then I think he should be taken to the court. He should be taken to the court.
Okay. Can
Rajiv bhai, many industries will close. Don't be so strict. Okay, Mr. Rahul Gupta.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Yes,
Mr. Yes, sir. I'm from Sri Ganganagar, Rajasthan, and I'm a landlord, and my tenant is Reliance Industries, and they've issued me a notice for the force majeure and not paying the rent from 21st of March. They are liable to pay me the rent or not?
Sir, they are fully liable to pay you the rent. That notice is illegal.
Okay, sir. So,
Mr. Mahendra Gargia.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. My query, sir, is that during the course of the proceedings under Section 138 of NIA, Negotiable Instrument Act, a settlement has been reached between the party whereby the defaulter has to make the payment, and the first installment falls due by 25th of April. So, if he doesn't pay the defaulter, what is the remedy with the complainant?
So first thing, that will not be a default.
Yeah, to extend this.
Because whatever is the period of limitation from 15th March, that gets extended by the period of this period. So even after this period, after excluding the period of lockdown from 15th March till the end of the lockdown, that period would be extended from computation of the period which is granted to him, sir.
I think Chairman sir would like to add something.
No. I support Mr. Dwivedi that
sir, so nice of you, sir.
It will be extended from 15th March. All limitations to be extended.
All limitations to be extended.
Whether payments under any law governed by the state of India. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Madam Jamuna Shukla from Varanasi.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Rajiv ji, one question only. Already you couldn't reply that. Yeah.
As many questions for you, ma'am.
Yeah, sir. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, ma'am.
Rajiv ji, you told that we should take care of all the adverse features in our agreement. In case it is not there, can we enforce it?
I missed the first part of your question, ma'am.
Sir, in case we have not incorporated this adverse clause of pandemic or anything, in that case, we can enforce this.
Ma'am, pandemic has been held to be force majeure by at least 3-4 declarations of the government of India.
Rajiv, the question is different. Whether force majeure clause is not mentioned in the agreement, How
No.
can you enforce it?
Okay, then see, we can try to cull this force majeure event from the wording of the agreement, and if it cannot be culled from that, then we have to go for section 56, and for section 56 also we can take the help of the pandemic event, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. A.V. Chalam. Mr. A.V. Chalam.
Hello.
Mr. Chalam, you are there. Please raise your query fast.
Yeah, this is with reference to landlord, whether he can initiate legal proceedings against the tenant or not. Sir, Rajuji, Section 3 of the Epidemic Diseases Act, Section 4, they say it should be scrupulously followed when this is there. And Section 73 of the Disaster Management Act 2005 also clearly says the proceedings given by the government should be followed. In such a case, when they say lockdown and other things are there, when no proceedings can be initiated against, can any proceedings can be initiated against lessee for the recovery of the lease rent?
Sir, not during this period, sir. Not during this period, sir, but after this period is over, and based upon the clause of your lease agreement, if there is no force majeure clause, then it can certainly be initiated, but after this entire period is over, sir.
Okay.
No, please. We are short of time. We are almost to the end of this. Mr. Kamal Khemuka. Mr. Kamal Khemuka.
Yeah. So we have a small query. In case company A has outsourced company B some part of work, and company A does not want company B to work due to some data security issues in the current scenario we are in.
Okay.
So can company A proceed with force majeure clause of the agreement?
There you will have to prove two things. Number one, how this force majeure event has made the obligation, has forced you to change in the obligation. All this part will have to be proved.
Okay.
You will have to demonstrate that how this incapacity has occurred due to this force majeure event. Now, how you are going to prove this by the fact that you have given to me, I'm finding it a bit difficult to think that if the information which has already been given to him, how that information becomes incapable of acting upon due to the pandemic, I'm finding it a bit difficult to understand. But however, there must be some more fact to it. So you'll have to correlate and prove that.
Okay. Mr. Avinash Kedia.
Thank you. My queries has been already settled out in these questions. All these questions.
Great, sir. That was the wonderful query.
Okay, sir.
Mr. Fasaluddin. He is a regular person, Mr. Fasaluddin. You are at every webinar. And I welcome
thank you, sir. I am very active in the
Yes, sir.
I am very interested also. I am
He
from
is
Kerala.
from Kerala.
Kerala. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I want to know this. There not provided any law contract or this force majeure. No clause in the even the no clause in the court. That's okay. I understood from the ongoing webinar discussions. I am eager to know what are the provisions or mode we can move against when somebody disagrees with to comply. That means cooperate with force majeure. How the mode we can move with it?
Sir, in case the agreement provide for the force majeure clause, then we have, and the force majeure event has taken place, we have to intimate to the other side that the force majeure event has taken place. So that is how we actually initiate the whole process.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Manoj Prajapati.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Any queries? Any queries?
No, nothing. Any queries?
Okay, thank you. And then I would be coming to Mr. Manish P. Mr. Manish P.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hello. Sir, can you hear?
Yeah. Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
My limited query is regarding the act of government, because we are basically dealing with the force majeure And under the force majeure, this is a sub clause called Act of Government, and because of the Act of Government, the lockdown order was passed. And if we see the Epidemic Disease Act, Section 3, I think one of our colleague has raised this query, that no suit and proceeding shall lie against a lessee. Then in that eventuality, if a lessee opt not to pay the rent in view of the Act of Government vis-a-vis the force majeure, then how the lessee is entitled to pay the rent? This is my limited query. If he violates this order, then he shall be booked under Section 4 of the Epidemic Disease Act and directly under 188. So the peaceful enjoyment of the property he will not be getting during the lockdown period. So how he will be entitled? All these judgments which we have discussed, none of these aspects have been dealt with. That due to Act of Government.
Short query in short, please.
Sir, sir, may I now reply to it, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, the your query is absolutely correct. The situation that you have put up are actually the new situations which would be answered in due course by the several court, because I think this issue is certainly going to reach to the court, because the amount involved is extremely high and it is going to impact a lot many people, sir.
Thank
you. So we'll also await the outcome of the.
Now last three queries. One Mr. Sunil Agarwal.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes. Yeah, Sunil जी उदयपुर से हैं, बोलिए.
सर एक 138 में नोटिस इशू करना था, लॉकडाउन की वजह से कर नहीं पाए, तो क्या वो
बस आराम से बैठिए सर, क्योंकि अभी तो कोई ना तो पोस्ट ऑफिस खुला हुआ है ना और कुछ खुला हुआ है. ईमेल कर सकते हैं तो कर दीजिए, नहीं भी करते हैं तो कोई फर्क नहीं है. जिस दिन अपना ये समाप्त होगा आपका लिमिटेशन, उस दिन तक अपने आप एक्सटेंडेड है सर.
30 जून तक होगा, वो कहलाएगा
सर. अब ये कब तक जाएगा ये सर भगवान जानता है सर. लेकिन चूंकि अभी कोई कुरियर भी नहीं चल रहा है, कहीं कोई लेटर भी नहीं जा रहा है, तो हार्ड कॉपी तो आपका जाएगा नहीं. ईमेल से आप अगर कर सकते हैं तो कर दीजिए, लेकिन उससे भी कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है सर. ये लिमिटेशन अभी सबका इसके बाद तक चलेगा सर.
मिस्टर बीजी शेलाकारी. मिस्टर बीजी शेलाकारी. I think he is not there. I would move to Satya Prakash Singh. Satya Prakash Singh. Are you there? Mr. Manoj Kumar from Ranchi. Mr. Manoj Kumar from Ranchi.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go on.
Can you hear?
Yes, please go ask your query.
My question is, I have entered an agreement with a party to open an office in the month of February, and he has not started to open the office. Now the party is saying that as I have not started, so I will not pay the rent. What should I do, sir?
Sir, this office was to be opened in the month of February only. Okay, so this entire event has to take place much before this. The force majeure event has taken place. He cannot take help of that.
Thank you.
So he has to pay.
Mukut Salia. Mr. Mukut Salia.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mulkit Salia.
Am I audible?
Yeah, go on.
Yes, you are audible.
Sir, is force majeure applicable on Admiralty laws?
Admiralty laws? Sir, it is applicable on every law. There is no exception to this. Sir, this is
Mr. Sandeep.
Sir, the power of God knows no exception.
So, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Go on.
So, we have mentioned a clause, any sums will be payable irrespective of state of economy. So, can we collect the rent? Irrespective of state of economy is the clause mentioned.
Oh, then sir, you have overridden the force majeure clause. Then that amount is payable in all the circumstances.
Thank you, sir.
Last question, Lalit Maheshwari.
हेलो सर, ये जो फोर्स मेजर क्लॉज तो एप्लीकेबल है लॉक इन पीरियड में. लॉक इन पीरियड जब कंप्लीट हो जाएगा उसके बाद रेंट की पोजीशन क्या रहेगी? क्योंकि वर्क तो उतनी इफिशिएंसी से कर नहीं पाएंगे, हम फुल यूज नहीं कर पाएंगे.
सर देखिए, इसमें बस यही बात है कि आपकी एफिशिएंसी पे कितना फर्क पड़ा है, ये आपको प्रूव करने की आवश्यकता है. फोर्स मेजर इवेंट कोई स्विच ऑन या स्विच ऑफ का चीज नहीं होता है। हाँ, ये है कि ये जिस पीरियड तक ये लागू रहा उस पीरियड तक तो 100% है, उसके बाद का भी आपको डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करना होगा कि कैसे इसने आपके इफेक्टिवनेस को इम्पैक्ट किया हुआ है, और वो आपको डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करने की चीज है सर वो।
थैंक यू
Rajiv bhai. I think we will have to stop now, and we have taken a lot of questions.
Yes,
It's almost 12:34. We normally close at 12:30, so we had extended the time. Chairman sir, I would just ask you again to say in a minute or two the concluding remark, and then we can have a vote of thanks.
No, that's, I think everything has gone off so well, and queries have been answered in a very appropriate and lucid manner by the learned speaker. All the best to the speaker, and the queries have been answered so well, and all must be satisfied with this subject, which has created a lot of interest and enthusiasm amongst the tax professionals. Yeah.
Friends, before asking my colleague, Secretary of the Central Zone, Sandeep Agarwal, to propose a vote of thanks, I would once again like to remind you, tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, again we have an income tax session on nuances of section 68 and 69. Please do join us. The PPT has already been shared of Mr. Rajiv Dwivedi. It has also already been shared.
Sending you. Sir, the new PPT I'm sending you just now, sir.
Okay, it has already been shared in the groups. Friends, it has been a good session. My thanks to the chairman, my thanks to the speaker, and I would request you, when you get our information, please circulate in all other professional groups. Ask them to join this webinars of AIFTP. It is a beneficial series. It is free. We are sitting at home and we are gaining knowledge. It is beneficial to all of us. Please do join us, and that is my request. I would now request Sandeep to conclude.
I'm thankful to today's chairman, Justice Chikiraka sir. I'm thankful to today's speaker, Rajiv Shankar Dwivedi sir, who deliberate this session very well. And on this new issue, we expected that this is not related to income tax and GST, so not so many participants will be there, but I'm happy to say that more than 400 participants joined this webinar today. I'm thankful to all of you, all the participants, Pankaj ji and all the office bearers of AIFTP National and the Central Zone. Thank you all. Thank you very much again. I want to see you again 11 a.m. sharp tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. With this, now we are ending our meeting. Bye-bye, and have a good day. Enjoy the Sunday. Though every day is a Sunday for all of us.
Rajiv ji want to say something.
Yes, Rajiv bhai.
Sir, I have revised my PPT, so I will just email my PPT to you, and I'm getting many query for the revised PPT, so kindly circulate this revised PPT on the group, sir.
Definitely, boss. Definitely.
Okay, sir. Sure. Thank you very much. Sir.
Thank you all.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.